Introduction to for loops and list comprehensions.
Welcome to another video on smart architectural programming. My name is Mohammed and coding alongside me is.
This is George, and today we'll be going over list comprehensions in Python. I'll let you take it, Mohammed. Thank you.
So this is a topic that potentially was a very niche topic and was not in our attention to be one of the core videos that we'll be creating. But then one of our subscribers asked us a question that are we able to use if-else statements within list comprehensions? Now, that question was kind of intriguing, and I saw a lot of people online had the same questions in regards to list comprehensions. But the other side, I also saw a lot of people who were interested in what list comprehensions are at the beginner level. Basically, it's not a very important concept to understand, but it's not a bad idea to just get a general understanding of what it is. So before we move towards what if-else, can we use if-else statements in list comprehensions, first we need to understand what are list comprehensions. So list comprehensions is a concise way we create lists. It allows us to create a new list by specifying the elements we want to include and applying an expression on each element and optionally filtering elements on that condition. Basically, what I mean by saying this is basically we run a loop over a list of objects, numbers, whatever, right? And we filter or set certain conditions through which all of those elements, numbers, digits, whatever, are added to a list, basically, instead of a loop. So it's another way of creating a list without using a loop. And again, there's kind of contention here. Some people might say that list comprehensions make things more readable, concise. While I might most agree that it makes things concise because it's not longer than a single line, while a loop might take more than 5-6 lines to do the same thing. At the same time, the readability argument is kind of contentious because a lot of people find it a little more cumbersome to read through list comprehensions rather than a for loop, which a lot of people are very familiar with. Even at a higher level, they find it much more quicker to browse through code if it's a for loop instead of a list comprehension. So to the first example, like again, with every concept that we go through practical code examples to help you understand and internalize the concept. So here, on the first, if you're looking at my screen, I've opened a document where I've created basically a for loop in a traditional manner that goes over a range of 5 numbers and squares each number and adds that to a list, right? And traditionally, that's very easy. As you can see from line 1 to 4, we have done that as well. We declare a squares variable with an empty list. We create a for loop with a range of 5, and then we append the x value in the loop by squaring it first and then appending it to the empty list. That's how we traditionally could expect to create a list using certain conditions or squaring the numbers and adding them to a list. At the same time, in list comprehension, we can do that in a single line. So if you go to line 6 and 7, mainly 7, you'll notice that we declared a variable called squares comp. Within that, we entered 2 square brackets, just like an empty list. But within those square brackets, instead of predefining exactly what the list would be, we define the restrictions of the numbers that we want the list to go over. So first, we define the action. We want the number to be squared and before adding to the list. And then we define a for loop for x in range 5 to tell Python that run a for loop here with a range of 5 and square that number and add that to the list. That's exactly what we're doing in the traditional approach, but here we're doing it in a single line within the square brackets to create the list. If you look at lines 9 and 10, you'll see the expected output is next to these print functions 0, 1, 4, 9, 16, and both of the output should be exactly the same. If you run this piece of code, we'll find that the answers are like the list are exactly the same coming back to the point that this is not a very essential topic to focus on, because again, a lot of people find list comprehensions more cumbersome and unreadable. So it's a very niche aspect of Python that you may or may not want to learn or employ. But just getting yourself familiar with list comprehensions context is not a bad idea, because you might be dealing with people who might be using list comprehensions in their code in your professional circles, and you might have to review that. So getting an understanding is obviously an added advantage. So now that you understand this example, we'll quickly go over two other examples to basically explain what list comprehensions are. This is mainly so that not only we can see more different types of applications of list comprehensions, but we can also understand how list comprehension is applied in multiple situations. So here it was just a simple number, and we performed an action on it and added that to a list. The next one is more so of a filtration function. So if you look at the traditional approach from line 1 to 5, I've highlighted that as well, you'll find that we'd first declare on line 2 a variable with an empty list, and then we define a for loop with a range of 10. So far, it's exactly the same as the previous document. But within the for loop, we add a conditional x modulus 2 equals to 0. Now, a lot of people might not be familiar with this if they are beginners in Python. But what this means here is that if we divide a number by 2, if there are no the remainder is equals to 0. But in simple terms, this means a number is even, right? Even. So if x modulus 2 equals to 0, that number is even. That means we're checking for even numbers on line 4 using this if statement. And on line 5, we append that to our even numbers list, the digit that passes through the if test. Now, that's how you do it traditionally. If you look at line 7 and 8, you'll find how we do that using list comprehensions. Again, a single line. That's the strength of list comprehensions. It's very, very concise. You can wrap everything up in a single line instead of 3-4 lines or probably more lines that you use in loops. So here we define within the square brackets, we say x for x in range 10. So we're not performing any action on x, so just a plain x that's going to go on the list. For x in range 10, we define the second aspect, we define the loop. And the third, we define if x modulus 2 equals to 0. So basically, here are 3 elements you'll notice in this list comprehension within the square brackets. The element that is going to go in, whether you're performing an action or not, that's defined here. But basically, what is the element that's going to go into the list as is, or is going to be processed as we squared this element in the previous code.